Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Cassie with AABC, and I'd like to welcome you to today's Tab Talk webinar. I also want to thank our sponsor, ProofCX Tab, for supporting this session. Just a few items to cover before we get started. Our presenters today will be holding questions until the end of the presentation, but we encourage you to submit those questions at any time using the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. If you happen to be experiencing technical problems during the webinar, please use the chat function to inform the panelists so that our producer, Will, can assist you. This presentation is being recorded and will be available for viewing in 1 week. In terms of continuing education credit, everyone in attendance for the full webinar will receive a certificate of attendance sent to their email within 24 hours. And finally, if you are a certified TBE or TBT, your CEUs for attending any webinar in this series will be automatically uploaded to your respective portal after the webinar. Today's webinar is Pathway to Independent Certification and Why It's So Important, with Jeremy Johnson, TBE CXA of American Testing, Inc., and John Sheppard, TBE of Atlantic Testing. Jeremy is an AABC certified TBE and an ACG certified CXA with 24 years of experience. He works at American Testing, Inc., a TAB and CX provider in the Baltimore, Washington metro area that specializes in healthcare, biocontainment, laboratory, and pharmaceutical projects. Jeremy has worked as an AABC certified technician for 15 years on various projects ranging from 1,000 square foot tenant office spaces to 300,000 square foot university and government laboratory buildings. He currently serves as the operations manager for ATI, supervising TAB projects, certifying TAB reports, and estimating. John Sheppard is the president of Atlantic Testing, operating out of Powhatan, Virginia. He has over 29 years of experience in the TAB and commissioning industries. While he is one of the owners of his own firm, his passion is working with other firms to create a strong network of teams that can tackle some of our industry's biggest issues. Without further ado, I'd like to hand it over to Jeremy and John to kick us off.
All right. Thank you, Cassidy. So hopefully you can see my screen and it's sharing. It's not coming up on my screen here.
Yeah, we see you, John.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Cassie. John, appreciate the opportunity here, guys.
Absolutely. And thank you for joining me. Typically, this would be a presenter and a moderator, but today, because we're doing this particular webinar, I'll be the presenter as somebody who's recently gone through the uh, certification process, and I'm now a TBE and AABC firm. And Jeremy is actually my mentor who walked me through the process and will be my mentor for the next 2 years. So it worked out great that he was able to join us and do this today so we can kind of give you both perspectives as we go through this. So like we said, this is the pathway to independent certification and why it's so important. And a lot of the first part of this is going to be why it is actually so important. So some of the discussion today will be a typical journey. Not every journey is going to be exactly the same, but we're going to try to do what the typical time frame, process, application, what all is involved, and why it's so important for us as independent third-party certified professionals when it comes to doing our projects and working with our customers. So the learning objective for today is going to be the essential skills and experience required for certification in the TAB field. We want to discover effective strategies for preparing to obtain certification, and we'll spend a lot of time on that. We want to make sure that everyone understands the distinctions between individual and firm certifications, as well as recognize the significance of achieving full independence through certification for your project endeavors and what it can do for you as you go. So like we said, my name is John Sheppard. I'm with Atlantic Testing. We're in Powhatan, Virginia. We certified last year, even though I worked for an AABC firm way back in the late 90s, early 2000s, and I was a TBE. I moved to a firm that was not independent and couldn't be certified through AABC. So I was away from the AABC world for a long time. Through a series of events, I became my own firm owner. And with that and being independent, I really wanted to get back into the AABC world. So I spent a lot of time talking to Ray at the head office there, and I prepared in advance. We did all the applications and everything, became certified, and here I sit today. We're an AABC certified firm. I'm a TBE. And I've got a great mentor in Jeremy Johnson, who is with American Testing, and he's pretty much been a big brother for me going through this. So I'll let you add anything you want to there if you want to, Jeremy, before we move forward.
The feeling of respect is mutual. I mean, your experience being a previous, AABC involved as a TBE, and then coming back to it, and circumstances led you to where you are. And, we're great to have you in firms like yours that, make that journey however it is. And, definitely are big advocates for AABC and for the industry. And you haven't been around 20 years doing it, but you come into it, and like I said, it's great to have you.
Well, thank you. So let's start by defining independent. And if you look it up in the dictionary, it's going to be free from outside control, not depending on others' authority. So how we define it in AABC is, it's the cornerstone of AABC. Members are strictly prohibited from having any affiliations with mechanical contractors, design engineers, equipment and equipment manufacturers. It prevents any potential conflicts of interest and ensures that all members provide engineers and building owners with professional, unbiased test and balance services. So independent is really related to that project. We don't want any involvement in the sales of the equipment, the install, the startup, any of the controls that go on it. We really want to be focused strictly on the test and balance for that project, which means we don't have any outside influence. We don't have anybody pulling the strings or stopping us from anything. We're there strictly for the test and balance on that project.
And John, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how much we're going to dive into in some later slides, but the independent selling parts. Who out here wants to, if you're an existing ABC tab firm or a tab firm in general, who wants to do more work for owners and engineers, right? If that's one of your to-dos, gateways that you want to get there, being AABC certified is definitely one of those things that can help you get to that place through independence.
Absolutely. One of the things I learned when I became an owner was that, that work is there. You can work for owners, you can work for large campuses, universities directly for them and not have to go through mechanicals and general contractors, and having that one-on-one relationship with them without any outside influence is really key. All your observations, your daily reports, all your data, it goes directly, to the owner, or even if it goes through other people, it's not influenced. It's just, the facts. There's no emotions, there's no time frames or anything else that are dragging on you. It's just, here's what we found, here's the results. That's our only goal on the project, is the successful test and balance and the operation of those mechanical systems. We're not as worried about, all the other stuff going in, flooring, anything else. That's, we want to keep the sole focus on that. And being an AABC firm, the owner, the architect, engineer, whoever is hiring that firm knows that if they're hiring an AABC firm, that is all they do. They're not involved in anything else. There are ways to put in the specifications that, you've got to be, independent, and you can help some things. But if you're hiring an AABC firm, you're getting independent right off the bat, and you don't have to look at anything else. Why it should matter to the tab firm, in addition to the owner, is, it keeps your sole focus on the building systems. That's all you do. That's all in your wheelhouse is third party. You don't have to bundle your pricing with stuff. I've worked with other entities where things get bundled and tab gets sold as a commodity. It's a almost, at cost add-on, sold as kind of a bonus. You buy the hot dog, you get the balloon for free. And if you're not in that world and you can focus solely on your product, you're not worried about that. You don't have that influence. You don't have to worry about controls and startup. If you're part of a package deal and something's not working in controls, you don't ever get stopped from saying, hey, you can't turn a report that says you can't tab it because controls aren't working, because you have no ties to control, which is nice. You also can't get blamed if other trades that you're bundled in with aren't working. I've been on a job site where, we couldn't do something because the controls weren't working. And they said, well, it's your same, company or your same family of companies. You worry about fixing it. And of course, that's not in our wheelhouse. I don't know, the electrical side of it, running wire, that type stuff. So being independent just kind of washes your hands from that, which is nice. And then again, your reporting stands alone. It's not going to be filtered or anything in any other way. Anything to add to that one, Jeremy, before I move on?
It's definitely all very well said points, and really something to think about from all perspectives for sure.
And if you've never lived in that world, it becomes an uncomfortable situation when, your company or your family of companies has, sold the equipment, put it on, is controlling it. You're worried about the startup, everything else, and you get thrown in as the tab guy when it's not your expertise. It gets a little uncomfortable sometimes, and it's hard to manage. So being independent has helped me professionally a lot. Um, so why being an independent firm working direct to the owner should matter to both the owner and the firm and really the project itself. Um, your payment doesn't depend on a clean report. It's rather an accurate report. And this is something that bothers me in the industry. Even if we're independent, we're hired by the mechanical firm. There's lots of issues with, we don't want to turn in a report because it shows that these three pieces of equipment don't make design or are not working. We're not paying you until we get a clean report. And in fact, that's not really what we're paid for. We're paid for an accurate report. If it really isn't running, then we're supposed to report that this is, how we found it on that day. It's not running. And you can avoid a lot of that if you're working for the owner, because nobody's going to threaten to withhold your pay until they get a, quote unquote clean report. And again, that goes back to the direct line of communication. The owners that we work for, particularly the ones that have large campuses and have done this on other buildings and learned that it's the better way to do it on their next buildings, they get that direct line of communication. Our guys send out a daily report literally every day they're on a site. If there's 2 crews on a site, they get, 2 daily reports or a combined daily report with what those crews were doing. There's pictures involved, there's issues logs involved, and a narrative that kind of says, hey, we were on site, this is what we did today, these were the issues we ran into. And it helps that owner, particularly if they're not versed in the mechanical systems, to kind of get a snapshot in a window into what's going on that day on the job site. And even though some of it may not be in their wheelhouse, the pictures and the simple one line item issues log tells them how many issues there are, what kind of stumbling blocks there might be. So it's a great line of communication for them and a window into the world that they're not used to. And we find that that's typically why we get hired to go back and do these projects again, because we're giving them, a 1-to-1 ratio of information, and, we're there to kind of help them, guide them through it. So part of this is, I want to try to debunk some of the myths for the owners and architects and engineers who ever have to hire the tab agency. The things we've heard in the past is, it's more work for me. I don't want to have to sift through all that. And, not really. In the end, if you're reading those daily reports, it takes 5 minutes at the end of the day. You're gaining that knowledge firsthand of what's going on the job site, and it gives you a better understanding of what's going on. It's going to end in your lap anyway if it becomes a larger issue and it causes delays. It can really save you a lot of time as a project early on. If we get it out of the way ahead of time, get people on it and fixing it, it doesn't get held up. If I've got to submit it to, whoever hired me, they've got to turn around and submit it to whoever hired them. It could take weeks or months to get to the owner's desk or the engineer's desk, whoever's got to kind of approve that and give a feedback on what to do. So that knowledge as an architect, engineer, owner is power that you've got up front, and you can start a remedy right then and there. It's still going to lie with the construction team, but it's an early on part of the project. Um, the other thing we've heard is that, oh, if they're working for me as the owner or the architect or engineer, they're not part of the project team. We want them part of the project team. And I think commissioning has probably debunked that for us, because commissioning is often held first tier or owner architect, and they're part of the commissioning or the project team all the time. So I think that alone has kind of debunked that myth a little bit. I don't know what experience you've had, Jeremy, but if you want to jump in and kind of,
Yeah,
I don't
no,
know how much owner work you do.
yeah, I could definitely speak for this for a while. I'm gonna try not to. Eyes and ears of the owner is another phrase that we've used for years. That kind of is another way to describe, that relationship what a tab firm can have, being on a project, working directly for the owner. And as far as like, talking about like the team and being a tab guy, part of the team, like I have had personally some of my best relationships ever with controls guys, sheet metal guys, and I was not under a mechanical sub. I was direct for the owner. They were under mechanical. We had a great relationship. We put up front how we're going to handle it, how we're going to resolve it. I'm not going to be the guy that's going to throw you under the bus, but I'm also going to have things that, that I have to do a job as well. And I'm going to respect you, but you're going to respect me. And, I've had some great, great, great experiences for sure. So I'm definitely a big advocate for that.
All right. So another one, and we hear this all the time, and this is starting to finally catch on with people is, can the tab agency and the CX authority be the same firm? Of course. And I don't know why this became a thing early on. I think it was just because tab verification got thrown under commissioning, and they're thinking that if the CX authority is doing the tab verification, then they obviously can't be the same. In reality, if we both have the same goal and we're the same agency and the same group, the way our firm is broken up, we have a tab division and we have a commissioning division, and we work independently of each other. And if we're on the same project, we have our own focuses. One is more quantitative, one is more functional, but we're working at the same goal, and that's to verify that the systems are running, they're optimized, they're tested, and everything's documented. We have the same goal, so we're not working against each other. If there's ever a question of a tab verification, which I'll go into in a second, simply have the engineer, owner, architect, somebody third party come in and just verify all the readings, and that takes that away. But again, if you're hiring the CX agency because you trust them and that agency's doing the test and balance, then you trust them. There's no reason or need for a tab verification because you're hiring an independent third party certified service to do that, and they're turning in a certified report. So if you are independent and you're certified in commissioning and you're certified in tab, yeah, you can do the same thing. And the owners that are hiring direct and know they're hiring third party understand that, and it's becoming less of an issue these days. So that's good. So what can happen if the firm's not independent? If you've never been a part of a firm that's not independent, you probably don't get those things. You probably haven't experienced them. I unfortunately have. But you can be told to delay your report or hide information because it makes the other trades that you're tied in with look bad. This can happen even as an independent firm if you're hired by the mechanical and the mechanical's holding your reports if you only report to them. But it can be worse if you're not independent at all. You can be told to do things that aren't in line with the standards. As a certified firm, we've got a set of procedural standards that we all follow. We've got a set of rules that we follow. Um, we don't want to stray outside of those lines. And if you're told to do something differently, it becomes a hassle. It becomes, a point of contention with the other team members that are involved. You can be directed based on things that aren't even related to tab. So if you're told not to do something, it could be related something to completely different, but it affects you. So we'll try to, get that out of the way as well. The worst one, and I've seen this from literally the first week I was ever hired back in 1995 to last week. We're asked to falsify data all the time. Completely third party independent. You can't tell me what to do. We're not going to do it. We have a set of rules to live by. When you're hired by other people or tied into other people, it can become a little bit more tricky and a little sticky there. So it helps kind of stave off that a little bit. You may have or end up with other responsibilities or liabilities outside of tab. Again, if you're tied in with controls or startup, you may get stuck having to try to start up a piece of equipment you're not used to or run controls for something that's not in your wheelhouse. It can affect pretty much every aspect of managing the tab process. So we want to try to keep all of that outside influence away and keep our guys and our firms focused solely on what we do. It's our specialty. It's what we do every day.
John, I've never been not independent, so I don't know any different, but it's definitely great to hear your perspective on it. And hopefully it can enlighten, and help people on this Zoom here as well to kind of get that perspective. Even though you haven't experienced it, like I said, I think it's worthy to understand, note, and then obviously it can, put even more of an emphasis on why the importance is, the independence is important. I'm sorry.
And if you can imagine the things you've seen as an independent firm, it's only 10 times worse if you're tied in with other people. It can be pretty crazy.
That's scary.
We've got a project where we're actually commissioning support for a project that's out of country. And they're letting the mechanical firm do their own test and balance, and it's a nightmare of things. And we're finding as we get involved and kind of get down to the root of things, it's because they are also the supplier and the installer of the equipment that they're kind of not providing us the information we want to see, and they're not qualified to do it, and it's become a big issue. And that owner is now rethinking his future projects, and he's going to spec, you know, AABC independent third party testing, because he finally gets it. This is like the second out of 40 or 50 buildings, and he's already on board to change the way he's doing things. And that's because we were there to kind of give him information daily on what we were seeing. So once you can get your foothold in with an owner and they understand it, it's a great thing.
Sure. And, you know, I guess, you know, to the point about, you know, instrumentation and about, yeah, I can buy a flow hood, I can buy an anemometer, I can buy a fluke probe, but what does it take to be a certified TBE? What does it take to be a certified technician? And it doesn't just take buying this stuff on Amazon or Granger or whatever. It takes way more than that, right? As we know.
Absolutely. So that's probably a good time for our first poll question, if our moderators can pop that up for us. So we just kind of want to know if your firm's currently AABC certified or not. Simple yes or no, because we kind of want to get a feel for how many aren't certified that may be interested in certification. So we can go from there. What we want to do from here is basically focus on, you know, how do we become a certified independent firm? So there's only one certification that I know of out there that requires complete independence, and that's AABC. It means your firm is corporately and financially independent from all other trades all the time. This is all you do. It requires complete dedication to providing nothing other than building systems testing services. You're not selling equipment. You don't do any other installs, controls, electrical. You certainly don't want me wiring your house. Keep me strictly on tab and commissioning. It requires 3 years of documented successful performance of testing and balancing. Um, so, you know, you've got to have a history of doing it. It requires having financial stability and proven past performance. So it's not like you're going to open a store tomorrow, go buy a bunch of stuff off Amazon and apply to become a certified firm. There has to be a history there in doing that. And that also means you've got to have expertise in doing it. You've got to have a proven track record. You've got to be able to prove that you can go out and do the work. If you've got all these components, your next step is pretty much to apply. You got to jump in and get going. One of my important things for before applying was basically being ready to apply. And the staff was phenomenal with helping me get the application, understanding what all's there. And we'll go through a little bit of that as we go here. But that was also an important part of having a mentor like Jeremy, because I could call and ask questions. He came and visited my office and went out in the field with us a little bit. And once we had a face-to-face rapport, it was easy just to call him up and say, hey, how do you do this? Because it's a little bit different than what we've done in the past. And having that mentorship and that one-on-one ability, that support there is really important. Again, preparedness. Look at all the prerequisites. There's a checklist in there. Making sure you're ready to go is I would, for me, be the most important step. So in the steps, prepared and knowing what to expect before you decide to actually submit the application. It walks you through everything you need to know before you submit your application. And I haven't been through it because I'm the new guy on the block, but Jeremy, I'm sure you have. I'm sure you get applications that are not complete, not filled out, missing part of what it is. It only delays the process. I'm sure it's frustrating on your end for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you know, going through being detailed as possible, you know, put yourself in a good position as far as timing and what you have available to get those documents and those stuff over to it is only going to help the process. The more questions we have to ask, go back and forth, obviously the total time it's going to take to get to the next step is going to take longer. So, and the fact that we're also, you know, volunteers too, right? We're not getting paid. We're not getting paid at all to do any of our volunteer work through the AABC and what we're doing. So I think that's important to understand too.
Yeah, it's not like there's a board of directors sitting there waiting on your call. Those are scheduled out months in advance. So there is a timing thing to the application as well. The good news is if you're already doing all the required elements, you're operating like an AABC certified third-party independent firm. The application process is pretty simple. If you review the application and you're missing a few elements, the history, whatever, you can basically use that. You can set it aside and not apply, but use that as your roadmap moving forward. If if you've only got 2.5 years in business, you've got another 6 months to go. Set that aside, use it as a checklist to make sure you've got all the other things ready to go. So when you're ready to apply, it's as simple as checking off the boxes and ready to go. So some of the application requirements: 3 years of documented history as a firm. And that's important as a firm, not an individual. And we'll talk about the individual certification and the firm certification here in a minute that goes with that. You've got to have an established place of business, so you're not just out in the interweb somewhere or a PO box. You've got to have financial responsibility and history to show that you've been in business, you've been successful, this is what you do. Past reports, those are important so that AABC can review those and see what kind of reporting you're used to doing. Even if your reports aren't 100% AABC, spec'd out, they can help you figure out what elements you're missing and need to adjust. There was one form that Jeremy showed me when we did the site visit that I've included for all of our other stuff already, just because it's a great form. It's a great way to track progress through a project, which is nice. The procedures, you've got to have the procedural standards and understand what they are. Instrumentation, obviously. Letters of recommendation, which we'll talk about here in a second. Review and investigation process, and that's where, like Jeremy, came down to our site and visited with us and spent a lot of time getting to know who we were and helping us out. Project lists, so that we know, what kind of projects you have on hand, what you've done, and what you've got coming up. And a notarized written statement of independence, basically certifying that you are an independent firm, you don't have any other responsibilities or interest. So the letters of recommendation, this is one that trips people up sometimes because it's got to be 10 letters from different companies. 5 have to be registered professional engineers affiliated with either a consulting engineering firm or project owner, and it needs to be based on projects you've done with them. That can be a little bit difficult if you're always working for a mechanical contractor and you've been on their project, but they may never have even seen your report, even though the project's a year old by now, just because there is that separation sometimes. So those sometimes take a long time to get. You may ask 20 people and only get 2 or 3 willing to write you a letter of recommendation. So that's something you need to be prepared for and provide some time in your schedule to get those in-house. And this is just a snapshot of the actual application. So it walks you through all of those things we talked about. And it's literally a checkbox that you can check off to make sure you've got everything in there. So once the application is submitted, the AABC Board of Directors will review. And again, timing is important. Like Jeremy said, they're all volunteers. They're not on the phone every day or every week. They schedule their meetings months in advance. So if you're sitting in your application and it may be the week after they met, it may be several weeks before they meet again. And again, it's important to have everything put together, because if you submit an application and the board meets next week and reviews it and you're missing something, then that may be a 2 or 3 month gap in having to go back and add those things in. So preparation and timing together are really important. Once that application is approved, the firm will be assigned a visiting team. For me, it was Jeremy and his group, and they were fantastic to work with. The board will receive a report back and give final approval. And at that point, you'll have an official firm approval and letter from the main office. And if you don't have a TBE on board, that's the point where anyone in your firm that meets the qualifications can go sign up to take the exam. So that's probably a good time to put up the next poll question, and probably Jeremy talk a little bit on the difference in individual certification and firm certification, if you want to take that one.
Yeah, sure, no problem. So the firm has the certification. You must have at least 1 TBE basically within, I believe it's 6 months of being certified test and balance engineer. The AABC has streamlined the process for getting certified as AABC test and balance engineer. And then also, encouraging test and balance, certified technicians too, to get brought up to speed, get certified. A lot of people say, hey, I'm, taking tests and certification and this is tough. I mean, a lot of it is about how much work and time you put into it and how you prepare yourself for these exams too. It does take time. Like, if somebody has never done testing and balancing before and you want to try to get a TBE within a year and don't have any knowledge of the industry, that might be tough. Like, you might have to be a rocket scientist, or I guess it could be done, but these things take time, and thus the reasons why we have the policies, why you have to be in business for so many years, why you have to have so much experience, and other factors that go into quality of certified people. And basically, making sure that our AABC members are the most highest qualified TAP professionals in the industry is a part of it too.
So the next part of that, once you get that letter and you're able to get a TBE on board, whether you've already hired one, you're going to hire one, or somebody in your firm is sitting for the TBE exam, you're assigned that mentor for the 2-year probation period. And you've got 6 months to fulfill that requirement. So if you've hired somebody or going to hire somebody, that can be fulfilled pretty quickly. If you're going to sign up to take the exam, that may take a couple of months. When you sign up for the exam, you've got to have, it's all online or on at testing centers. So you may have to schedule that with a testing center when they're available to do it. So again, beyond the application and approval process, you've got to have some preparation and schedule built in for getting that TBE role filled. You're not officially fully certified and ready to do work until you've fulfilled that and you have a TB on board. And then at that point, you'll get your firm certificate that says, you've met all the requirements. So there is an individual certification, there is a firm certification, but they're closely tied together because your firm has to do work with the TBE and your TBE has to work with the firm. You become one team and one entity there to do that. And like Jeremy said, there's lots of prerequisite experience qualifications to be able to even sit for the TBE exam. And that's a crucial part of what we do.
And if
So,
I could, just
yeah.
for a second, as far as being a TBE, and
Mhm.
hey, well, why can't you just have technicians do the work, and why can't we just submit the information? The TBE holds basically the quality control for the company and for the AABC, basically, right? Certified technicians or technicians do the work, and this is the quality control. This is the person saying, hey, look, my firm is doing this work. I'm certifying that they did it per the standards, as per the specifications. Here's the documentation within. So I just wanted to just kind of highlight that point because I think it's important.
Absolutely. And the TBE is going to be the only one outside of your technicians that has that long-term experience. And when I talk to people outside of our field and explain the amount of time that's required to sit just for the technician level exam, they're really shocked well, if I can read the book and pass the exam, why can't I just, go take it? It doesn't matter that I haven't done it for more than a week. And it's because experience is such a major part of what we do. It takes that long in the field just to be able to see all the different things you need to see to have the experience to be certified. Even more so on the engineering, the TBE side. It takes that amount of experience, that many years, to really be qualified and have seen all that you need to see to be able to get those reports from the technicians and understand the data you're getting. And then the project's experience dealing with the other team members that you have to deal with, controls, commissioning, electrical. It takes that level of experience. So it's important to AABC. It should be important to you as a firm that you've got those experienced people in place and then obviously certified once they're eligible. So the next part of it is, what happens at that point? Are we done? Am I certified, or do I just get to go, live the rest of my life? And the answer is no, it doesn't stop there. Your mentor's there with you for a couple of years. The staff and everybody else, pretty much every other AABC certified firm in TBE is there for life. One thing I stress, go ahead.
Well said, well said. Networking,
Okay,
right?
yeah, absolutely. And that's, to me, more than anything, the certification, I mean, it doesn't do much for me personally. It does stuff for me outwardly. It lets other people know that I'm certified to do it. What does it for me is what comes with the certification, and that's the incredible staff, the incredible mentorship, and your network of people. I've never been able to tackle a job that was outside of my wheelhouse if it weren't for knowing the resources that I had. You're going to meet them at the annual meeting. You're going to meet them at seminars. Some of my best friends I met in seminars 10 or 20 years ago, and we've just always stayed in touch. They may be in Arkansas or Washington State or somewhere. And that's really the hidden gem of the certification and the program is the mentorship and the friendship you've got there. So um, the logistics of it is you're going to have a mentor. You're going to check in every month. You're going to provide a list of projects that you've been awarded so that we can track those as an AABC firm submitting those AABC reports. And like I said earlier, Jeremy's already helped me improve my reports and do things that it helps not just the certification, but helps us track the project and be a little bit more efficient. So it's been good that way as well. So there's periodic check-ins ongoing that will occur. Report reviews are always fantastic. I don't mind sending my report to anybody that wants to review it and tell me, hey, have you ever thought about doing it, X, Y, or Z versus A, B, or C? You get the best of all the worlds there. So it means you're not alone. It is the network that's a big deal. So what's after that and beyond that? Well, the next part of it is, get involved. Yeah.
Right. We got you now. We got you now.
Yeah. Yeah. We want to draw you in. It's almost like going to church. Once they volunteer you, you're stuck for life. So we want you to get involved. We don't want you to just become certified and just go out and do certified work and we never hear from you again. We want you to get involved because if we make you better, you make us better. It is a network of colleagues and friends, truly. I go on vacations with guys that I've met, years and years ago. We meet sometimes once a year at a conference, and that's it. But as we pick up where we left off, like we hadn't been apart for 360 days or so, and actually, honestly, partnering with other firms. Some of the out of country work we partner with other firms to help us staff them if they can get to them easier, if they've got somebody that speaks a different language. Some of the most fun I've had on projects is projects I've partnered with other certified firms to go out and do the work. But then you get to be a great ambassador for AABC because the questions I always get when I'm out of town or out of country is, how did you learn how to do this? Where do I go? What do I do? You can just start pointing them towards the website and having them call the office. And, there's great places to start, but you're going to find that they call you back every time they learn something and want to walk through it. And you become a resource for them. And ultimately, they become some of your best customers because they know you have the expertise. They know if you don't have the expertise, they know somebody that does have the expertise and you can get them there. Go to conferences. If you haven't met people, that's where you're going to meet people. There's great sessions that you can learn stuff. If you sit through a 2-hour session and don't learn anything but something that saves you 5 minutes a day, but it saves you that 5 minutes every day for 365 days of the year, it's worth sitting through a seminar for 2 hours. And I'm surprised at how many I go to thinking I know everything they're going to present, and I still walk away with something new.
John, do you play golf?
I don't. I lived on a golf course for 11 years and never stepped foot on it. That was sad.
I don't play golf that much, but I do know one thing about golf as it relates to, and I'm getting to a point here. If you play with other people that are better than you, it makes you better. Okay. If you go to conferences and you get in that room with other people that are smart or smarter than you are, it's only going to make you better.
Absolutely. And don't be afraid to volunteer to even give a session. You may not feel like you're qualified, but you'd be amazed at how many people will walk up to you afterwards and say, hey, I didn't know that. Actually, I gave a presentation a couple of years ago, and it was on Excel and doing some things with tab forms. And there was a glitch in Excel that I couldn't work out for years and years. And a guy walked up, actually ended up being my competitor. He lives in the same county, works for another firm. Walked up to me afterwards. He goes, hey, I figured out how to fix that. And he gave me the solution to doing it. And that has saved me so much hassle for the last 2 or 3 years. And so that was something I got out of it. And I was actually given the seminar that time. So don't be afraid to volunteer. And if you feel inadequate, trust me, give it 5 minutes in the room and you'll feel like you're at home with everybody else. Nobody's going to make you, feel less than anything else. You're going to learn. And honestly, and this is true for AABC, ASHRAE, church, whatever. Anytime you volunteer, you're always going to get more out of it than you put into it. No matter how much you put into it, you'll always get more out of it. And I think that's where I've probably grown the most in the past 30 years is just that mentorship.
Well
So
said. Said, John.
yeah, a couple of ways coming up that you can get more involved. The next couple of months, we've got AABC tab talks coming up. August 15th is different types of hydronic balancing and their impact on controllability. And that's something that changes, I think, every month at this point, where they come out with new technology, new types of valves, particularly with PICVs and the way they're doing those, they change constantly. So it's good to stay up on that topic. September 18th is tracking the challenges and repeatability of ultra low flow measurements. Again, we're starting to see stuff, get down to the micro units, and it's hard to do some of that. So again, great learning opportunities. If you're a CXA and you're involved with ACG, they've also got webinars going on. EMA has webinars going on. But ultimately, the big one for me is going to be the October 9th through 11th annual meeting in Lost Pines, Texas. It's great to see everybody through webinars, and we've kind of all gotten used to it because of COVID. But you can get more done in a 2 or 3 day personal face-to-face meeting than you can get done in 12 or 24 webinars over a 12-month period. It's crucial to have that one-on-one in-person contact with people and learn and grow your network. I honestly can't stress it enough. So a couple minutes early, but questions. If we can help you in any way, ask a question. There's the chat button there that you can go to and ask questions that way, and our moderators will help do that.
We've got one question already. Someone asked, do you think that we need to rebrand ourselves as professional services rather than tab contractors? Wording does matter, they say.
Yeah, and I'll take that one and then hand it off to Jeremy. If you look at Davis-Bacon, they actually have a clause in there that for commissioning and for test and balance, they are considered a professional service, and Davis-Bacon does not even apply to us. You don't ever have to submit certified payroll. That alone, when we start a contract and send that in, we use that as the basis of we're submitting pricing to you as a professional service, not as a contractor. We stay away from pay when paid. We stay away from certified payroll. We stay away from the typical contractor construction type atmosphere, and we present ourselves as a professional service. And yes, I think the entire industry for commissioning and for test and balance needs to push that very hard. Jeremy?
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. And, this is something that, it takes time. And, the fact that we are agencies, the fact that we are professionals, right? The fact that we, are known as a tab contractor working, under mechanicals and that kind of stuff. And, I think it's a progression, but it's going to take time. It's going to need more traction, more people talking about it. But for me and in my time with the AABC, I can already start to see a shift in that I guess that persona, but it's going to take more time, unfortunately. We're going to have to keep working at it and just, change the mindset, change the language too, because tab has so many different, acronyms and way people describe it. And, what am I testing? You've seen it, John, before too, right? People call up and what do you test? Oh, wait a minute. I don't really know what I need here, but I think I need you guys.
Absolutely. And again, that's something as an industry, if we all kind of band together and we're meeting at annual conferences and we're all kind of giving out the same message, that's something we can tackle going forward. One way we try to do it on projects alone is getting involved early and looking at their schedule, because they're going to schedule one day for tab, and it's a $50,000 school, and they want to call you the Friday before Labor Day and say, hey, we need tab this weekend. It just kind of gives you an idea of how much emphasis they put on it or how little they know, because they're going to say you can do a $50,000 school in a day. So we start there and work with them on the schedule, and we explain what all we do. Lunch and learns are great ways to really promote that. You can do it with the mechanical contractor. I do them with general contractors. We do them a lot with architects and engineers. You'd be surprised at how many questions you get during a lunch and learn with an architect and engineering firm, because they don't realize how much time, effort, and background and experience goes into it. And you'll see with those particular firms that you've done lunch and learns with, their specifications actually start to change. We've got one locally here that actually puts it in the O1 specification with commissioning now. And it is a first tier minimum or higher specification. And that's been strictly from lunch and learns with companies here that have worked with them. And if you can get in with owners, even better. Go after owners that have multiple buildings. If you've got one owner that's building one building, you can work with them, but it's not gonna you're not gonna see great dividends. But if you've got a campus, universities, we live close to Richmond City, and there's large campuses there for financial institutes that have multiple buildings. Those are the ones that you can make an impact on because they're going to learn in one building what they can fix and do in the next building. And we've seen great dividends off of campuses that way. And it's really just educating the customers and the users and the buyers about what we do and how in depth it is and why it's important the way it is.
I think engaging with the engineers and specifications, projects. Hey, how many on this call have ever called an engineer up and say, hey, just reaching out, wanted to follow up. We did a project. If you guys have any questions, let me know. Hey, I saw that you have a 1% duct air leakage spec on it. Hey, it was tough, but the contractor got it done. I witnessed it. And that is going to be one efficient system for years to come. So I applaud you for setting your standard really high. And that's other ways that you can do to engage engineers, put your name on the map, right? Hey, this contractor called me up and he cares that they have 1% duct leakage. Like he thinks it's important. He's an advocate for it, right? That's stuff that you can do too, that we've done, we've been a part of. Engineers come to us and ask us, hey, help us with our specifications. So it's all good stuff, all learning stuff, but engagement is one thing that I would leave here saying. So
another way is pre-field engineering reports, and this is a personal passion of mine. Is not only do I do it in-house to make sure that our technicians and our team leaders go out with fully engineered projects, color coded, label drawings that match all of our spreadsheets that are color coded to that with all of the procedures already done. But we find that when we submit those really early on in the process, and it's got a detailed design review in there of, what we can't find, what numbers don't match, this load doesn't match that load, we're missing a sequence of operations, then it gives the engineer that's reviewing it an idea that, hey, these guys have really looked at this project, they know what they're doing, and I can help them bridge some of those gaps. That creates a communication and connection really early on in the project, that they feel like you're qualified and they kind of understand how much time you've put into it. That helps an early dialogue in the project as well. So anytime you can add those things, that's where not only will you get hired again, but you're creating those relationships. That's very important. Any other questions?
We've got one from your list of sample questions. What is the most important part of the application process? Would y'all say?
I'll answer first and give it to Jeremy. Mine is being prepared.
Patience, maybe.
There you go. Yeah, being prepared and understanding that there is a timing element to it, just because everybody is a volunteer that reviews them, and they're not just on standby waiting for you. So be prepared both ways. Be prepared physically and with patience.
And hey, too, if you have an idea or you're thinking, hey, I have the application, I downloaded it, we're going to start the process. Reach out to headquarters, right? Reach out to those out there and say, hey, look, I'm looking to submit it within the next year. Is there a good time of year that could be submitting it where maybe the application can get through a little quicker and that kind of stuff too? Like those are kind of like tips and tricks that you can do that might help your cause as far as timing too.
Absolutely. I will say that I had a really easy experience, but I've been in touch with Ray for the last 2 or 3 years. Uh, Funny enough, when I sat for my TBE exam in 2004, Ray was actually my proctor that day. So I've known Ray since 2004, if not before, for my TBT. And we've seen each other at trade shows and stuff, so we've kept in touch. So when I finished up some other responsibilities here with the company, and I knew I was headed that way, I reached out to him, and he's been phenomenal to work with. The staff is great to work with. If you've got questions, don't hesitate to ask. They will help you every step of the way.
Well said.
All right, and then what would y'all say is the biggest advantage to becoming AABC certified?
Ooh, twofold, but for me, it's network, network, network.
Yeah, I mean, putting yourself around smart people like my thing. It's like I love it.
Absolutely. Yeah. The network by far. It's great for business to say, hey, I'm an AABC certified firm. It's what you do with it from there, really. And that's networking.
All right, awesome. Well, that's a wrap for today's webinar. Thank you so much, John and Jeremy, for a great presentation and discussion. And thanks again to our sponsor, Proof CX Tab. Last but not least, thank you to everyone who joined today. Before we wrap up, I want to remind y'all that registration is now open for the AABC annual meeting happening October 9th through 11th in Lost Pines, Texas. You can visit aabc.com to register and learn more. And we thank you so much for your time, and we'll see you at the next webinar.
Thank you, everyone.
ABC, thank you, John. Thank you.